On October 13, 1972, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 departed Mendoza, Argentina, bound for Santiago, Chile. The twin turboprop aircraft, carrying the old Christians rugby team and their families, was piloted by Colonel Julio Cesar Ferradas, a seasoned aviator with extensive experience flying over the Andes. However, the flight was destined for tragedy. Due to adverse weather conditions, the pilots were forced to navigate the mountainous terrain using instruments. As they approached the Planchon Pass, a crucial waypoint between Argentina and Chile, the co-pilot made a critical error. He miscalculated the aircraft's position, believing they were overflying Curico, Chile, when in reality they were still hundreds of kilometers away. Relying on this incorrect assessment, co-pilot requested permission to descend. Air traffic control granted the request, unaware of the plane's perilous location. As the aircraft descended through the clouds, the pilots realized their fatal mistake. The plane was dangerously close to the towering mountains. In a desperate attempt to avoid a collision, the pilots applied full power to climb. However, the aircraft's maneuvers were too little, too late. It struck the mountainside, resulting in a catastrophic crash. The impact tore off the wings and tail section, leaving a gaping hole in the fuselage. Several passengers were instantly killed, while others were thrown from the plane. The remaining survivors, trapped in the remote Andes Mountains, faced an unimaginable ordeal. With limited supplies and freezing temperatures, they were forced to endure unimaginable hardships, including cannibalism as a last resort to survive. Their story of resilience and survival against all odds became a testament to the human spirit's indomitable nature. The crash of Flight 571 resulted in the tragic deaths of 12 people, including both pilots, the navigator, the flight attendant, and several passengers. Many others sustained severe injuries, including broken bones and internal injuries. Despite the devastation, 33 survivors remained alive. Medical students Canessa and Zerbino quickly assessed the wounded, prioritizing those with the most critical injuries. Despite their own pain and suffering, several passengers, including Nando Parado and Enrique Platero, selflessly helped others, demonstrating remarkable courage and compassion in the face of adversity. Following the disappearance of Flight 571, a massive search operation was launched by authorities from Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay. Despite extensive efforts, the aircraft remained missing for several days. The survivors, trapped in the remote Andes Mountains, attempted to signal rescuers by writing SOS messages with lipstick and constructing a cross on the snow. However, their efforts were in vain, as the rescuers were unable to spot the wreckage from the air. As time passed and the harsh conditions took their toll, hope for finding survivors dwindled. After 8 days of intensive searching, the rescue operation was suspended due to the low probability of survival. The searches concluded that the chances of anyone surviving the crash were negligible and planned to return in December to recover the victims once the snow melted. In the aftermath of the crash, the survivors faced immense challenges. They fashioned a crude shelter from the wreckage, improvised essential items like sunglasses and a water collector, and rallied around their captain, Marcelo Perez, for leadership. Nando Parado, who had been unconscious for 3 days, awoke to devastating news. His mother had died, and his sister was critically injured. Despite his own grief, he dedicated himself to caring for his sister, but sadly, she succumbed to her injuries. The survivors endured harsh conditions, including freezing temperatures and a lack of essential supplies. They struggled with fear, despair, and the realization of their dire situation. However, amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerged. Gustavo Nikolic, with unwavering courage, reminded the group that the end of the search meant they would have to find their own way out. His words ignited a renewed determination within the survivors, preventing them from succumbing to total despair. The survivors of Flight 571 faced a relentless battle against starvation. With limited food supplies, they were forced to ration their meager rations, which quickly dwindled. As their hunger intensified, they resorted to desperate measures, consuming inedible items like leather and seat stuffing. Faced with the grim reality of impending death, the survivors made a harrowing decision to consume the bodies of their deceased friends and relatives. This was not a choice taken lightly, as many of the dead were loved ones. However, driven by the instinct to survive, they reluctantly agreed to this extreme measure. Canessa, one of the survivors, described the agonizing decision. "We knew the answer, but the answer was just too terrifying to contemplate. The bodies of our friends and teammates preserved outside in the snow and ice contained the vital, life-preserving proteins that would keep us alive. But could we do it? For a long time, we agonized. The decision to eat human flesh was a profound moral dilemma, challenging their religious beliefs and humanity. Some survivors, driven by deep revulsion, consumed only the bare minimum necessary to survive. Others, including Liliana Methel, reluctantly agreed to eat human flesh after comparing it to the Holy Communion. Despite the horror of their situation, the survivors persevered, drawing strength from their shared experiences and unwavering determination. Their decision to consume human flesh was a stark reminder of the lengths to which humans will go to survive, even when faced with the most extreme circumstances. On October 29, an avalanche struck the survivors' shelter, burying 8 people, including the team captain and Liliana Methel, who had selflessly cared for the injured. The remaining survivors were trapped inside the fuselage, facing the imminent threat of suffocation. With incredible effort, Parado managed to create an air hole, allowing them to breathe. However, a blizzard soon trapped them again, forcing them to consume the bodies of their recently deceased friends. The loss of their leader and the devastating effects of the avalanche further tested the survivors' resilience. Daniel Fernandez and the Stroud brothers stepped up to lead the group, assuming the grim task of harvesting and distributing human flesh. As the days turned into weeks, the survivors realized their initial belief of being close to Chile was incorrect. They were deep within the Andes, and their only hope for survival lay in a perilous journey over the mountains. After careful consideration, a team of 3 survivors was chosen to embark on a perilous journey to seek help. Canessa, Parado, and Vicentin, the most physically fit members, were prepared for the grueling expedition. They carried essential supplies, including food and clothing, and trained rigorously to withstand the harsh conditions. Their initial plan was to head west towards Chile, but a large mountain blocked their path. Instead, they decided to explore the valley to the east, hoping for a route that would lead them to Chile. During their journey, they discovered the tail section of the aircraft, which provided shelter and essential supplies. However, the harsh conditions and extreme cold posed significant challenges. The survivors nearly froze to death on their second night, prompting them to return to the tail section. With renewed determination, they planned to use the batteries found in the tail section to power the radio and send an SOS call for help. The survivors attempted to bring the radio to the tail section to send an SOS, but the heavy batteries made it impossible. Despite Roy Harley's efforts, they were unable to make the radio work due to a power incompatibility. Realizing their only hope was to climb out of the mountains, they continued their journey, facing another blizzard along the way. Harley lost hope, but was encouraged by Parado to continue their mission. 3 more survivors died due to their injuries and the extreme conditions. The remaining survivors, facing certain death, knew they must leave to seek help. They heard news that the Uruguayan Air Force had resumed their search, offering a glimmer of hope. The survivors realized that to survive the perilous journey over the mountains, they needed a way to protect themselves from the freezing temperatures. They ingeniously fashioned a sleeping bag using insulation from the fuselage, electrical wire, and waterproof fabric. Carlitos Paez, with his sewing skills, led the effort to create the sleeping bag. Others joined in, contributing their skills and working tirelessly to complete the essential item. Despite the completion of the sleeping bag, Numa Turcotti tragically passed away. Canessa remained hesitant about the expedition, but with encouragement from the others, he agreed to join Parado and Vizintin on their perilous journey. On December 12, the three men began their ascent, their determination fueled by the desperate need to survive. The survivors believed they were closer to Chile than they actually were. They lacked essential equipment for climbing and faced harsh conditions, including thin air and extreme cold. Despite these challenges, they began their ascent, hoping to reach Chile within a day. After reaching a steep wall, Parado carved steps in the ice to continue their ascent. Despite the exhaustion and harsh conditions, they pushed forward, hoping to find a way out. However, when they reached the ridge, they were met with a disheartening sight: endless snow-capped mountains. Realizing their journey would be longer than expected, they decided to send Vizintin back to base camp to conserve food. With renewed determination, Parado and Canessa continued their descent, following a ridge that led them towards a valley, their glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. After a grueling journey, Parado and Canessa reached a valley where they saw signs of human life. They managed to communicate with a local man, who agreed to seek help. The man rode for hours to report the survivors' situation to the authorities. Meanwhile, Parado and Canessa arrived at Los Matines, where they received food and rest. The survivors had climbed a remarkable distance, overcoming countless obstacles along the way. The news of the survivors sparked international interest, with reporters flocking to the area. The Chilean Air Force provided helicopters to rescue the remaining survivors from the crash site. Due to the terrain and weight limitations, 2 separate flights were required to evacuate everyone. The survivors were taken to hospitals for treatment, but the remains of the deceased were left behind due to jurisdictional issues. The Chilean military documented the crash site before returning home. I hope you enjoyed this video. So if you like this video, then subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends and family.